The Legion of Doom is back. That's kind of the main thing this season. But this time they're working with an accomplice.
I've recently been in contact with the Fearians, an advanced civilization of beings from the planet Venus. I've convinced them to work with the Legion of Doom to help solve both of our problems. Brace yourselves, everyone, and watch this.
Earthmen, listen carefully. We need your help to change the environment of your planet, making it more suitable to our life form.
He won't say it, but you get the feeling they have an overpopulation problem. Since they have to count each person 3 times, I can see why.
Your atmosphere must be hotter and wetter, and there must be more vegetation like our planet Venus. This will enable us to invade Earth and colonize it. Your Legion of Doom will then be given full control over all Earth beings.
But if the Earth is as hot and wet as they say Venus is, won't that be a little incompatible with the Legion's continued ability to be alive? As if that matters to these guy. Scarecrow mentions the Super Friends, but the Fearian says, "You do your part and we'll take care of that bunch."
We won't fail, because the Super Friends will be assisting us in our plan.
For starters, Captain Cold has a super big freeze ray and he uses it to freeze New York and San Francisco. Since he's traditionally the Flash's enemy, the Flash will deal with it.
My super speed will create a vacuum beneath his freeze ray and suck it to the ground.
Well, look who's arrived in a flash. I've been expecting you and waiting to give you this.
No, that is not what we mean when we say something is flash frozen. He's called the Scarlet Speedster, but just then he was the Scarlet Stand there. He gets his molecules vibrating and escapes. Now let's have a lesson in how to stop a disaster by trying to start another one.
Are you prepared for this?
Great wings of Mercury! I've got to stop that falling building before it shatters into a million pieces.
Within the span of a heartbeat, Flash speeds over the Brooklyn Bridge, unraveling its cable supports and tying them to the top of the falling skyscraper.
It wasn't until the bridge collapsed and dropped several cars into the river that he remembered those cables hold the roadway up. While he's doing that, Captain Cold gets away.
Using his hyper speed to create tremendous friction, Flash melts away the ice from the frozen cities, unaware of the great quantities of steam that are filling the atmosphere.
One of the more interesting things about steam is when it cools, it turns back into water. But this is Flash steam. It doesn't. It stays up there in the air, creating a greenhouse effect that nobody's noticed yet, making Earth hotter like the Fearian said. Next, it's Black Manta's turn.
It's the Pacific Ocean, and it's on fire.
That's right, Wonder Woman, and I started it.
Black Manta! I should have known you'd be responsible for such a fiendish act.
Of course, Aquaman. And I might have known you'd be fool enough to try to stop me.
And stop him is just what I'll do.
The first task, naturally, is to put out the fire. Black Manta is going around in his craft spraying some kind of accelerant on the water and lighting it. In good Super Friends fashion, Aquaman will come up with the strangest way to quench it that I ever saw.
Using his aquatic telepathy, Aquaman commands hundreds of large sea creatures to form a gigantic wave which drenches the flaming ocean.
Great Neptune! That giant wave is headed toward the coast.
In a desperate attempt to put out the flames, Aquaman's giant wave does more than he intended, drenching dozens of coastlines and flooding inland areas.
Making Earth wetter, like the Fearian said.
Planetary emergency. 6 radioactive comets are on a direct collision course with Earth.
3 potential disasters in one day. There is obviously a plan behind them.
And if my hunch is right, there's a certain super villain behind those comets. just as I suspected, the work of my old adversary, Sinestro.
The Super Friends are making one of the most basic mistakes because each one is going out to face their traditional enemy. You want to mess with the Legion of Doom? Send Green Lantern after Captain Cold. Send Superman to deal with these comets. Send the Flash to deal with the fires. Mix it up! Among other things, the big problem with the way they're handling the current crisis is Sinestro knows Green Lantern too well.
I'm trapped in one of Sinestro's yellow powering devices.
That's right, Green Lantern. My gyroscopic transporter will spin you right out of the universe.
This was something I never understood about Green Lantern. If you want to incapacitate him, just sneak a yellow cake into his dessert or stick him in a yellow cab. Being susceptible to a certain color baffled me, and it still does. I never got into the character enough to find out if there's an actual rationale behind it, but even assuming there is, I still don't get it. In that other dimension, even weirder things are happening.
Great Guardians, the speed of Sinestro's gyro changed the wavelength of the yellow light to blue. Now my power ring can reverse the gyro and bring me back.
That's not how visual wavelengths work, but he doesn't know that, so his trick works and he's back in the physical universe. And there's still those comets to deal with.
Our ring won't work on these yellow comets. I'll have to move the Earth out of the way.
That's his only idea? Put a force field around the Earth so the comets bounce off. Create a giant catcher's mitt. Make a water slide type chute to zing them around and send them back where they came from. He can't affect them directly, but I see no reason why he can't affect them indirectly. Instead, he moves the whole planet. Well, it worked. The problem is, after the comets go by, he neglects to put the planet back where it was. And the Legion of Doom's mission is complete. Good job, Super Friends.
According to the computer, our efforts to stop the Legion of Doom have greatly affected the world's environment.
Wonder Woman's right. The ice I melted evaporated into a dense layer of steam blanketing the Earth. It's raising the Earth's humidity to a dangerous level.
And because of Aquaman's tidal wave, the land surfaces are damper, causing an increase in wild vegetation.
And that's not all.
Green Lantern moved the Earth a few degrees off its normal orbit, making the temperature rise still higher.
I'm starting to think the Legion of Doom are the smart ones, and maybe they should be in charge. They couldn't do a worse job than these guys just did.
We've got to figure out once and for all where the Legion of Doom is hiding and find out what they're up to.
I can answer your questions, Super Earth beings. Your so-called Legion of Doom offered to change the atmosphere so we could make your Earth a Fearian colony.
Excuse me, I'm trying to respect your customs. Which head do I speak to?
In return, they asked only that we allow them to rule all Earthlings, and that we put an end to you.
Gee, that's all. Superman says you're welcome to try and get rid of me.
Our force field is quite remarkable, Superman. Nothing can penetrate it.
Unless it's made with kryptonite, I find that hard to believe. And kryptonite will never come up in conversation, so it's not a factor. But the Fearian says, here, have one of your own.
You'll be entombed in the Hall of Justice forever.
It's green, so Green Lantern should be able to whisk it away with no trouble.
Congratulations, my fellow villains. We've finally succeeded. The Super Friends are as good as gone.
And with the help of my android copies of the presidents and generals of the world's largest countries, we'll soon be ruling the world.
My usual question stands, what do you want to do with it? They want to go commit crimes, but when you're the ones sitting in the Capitol chambers in Washington, D.C. making the rules, there is no crime. You can make whatever you want legal. And really, when you're a supervillain, where's the fun in that?
Nothing we have tried has had any effect on the force field.
The Fearian was right. It's impossible to escape.
Warning, Super Friends. This is a global emergency alert. Further analysis indicates that unless the change in the Earth's atmosphere is reversed within 15 minutes, the damage will be irreversible.
Well, yeah, there's a time limit. If they had all day to figure this out, things might get a little dull.
I've got an idea that may get us out of here and stop the Fearians at the same time. My power ring may not be able to penetrate this Fearian force field.
It's not yellow, so I don't see why. Instead of trying to poke a hole in it, just will it out of existence. That ring is supposed to be able to do anything he thinks of, so if he thinks of, there's no force field here, it should go away. But so far, Green Lantern doesn't have a whole lot of consistency in his powers.
But it will work inside of it.
Green Lantern used his power ring to turn us all invisible.
They really can't get out of that thing, but let's play a little game of the Fearians aren't so sure about that now.
Now all we have to do is tell the Justice League computer to send the Fearian leader a tricky little message.
Now to Radio Venus Base 1 and begin colonization. I'm picking up some sort of transmission.
Justice League computer to Super Friends. I have found a flaw in the Fearian force field.
Flaw? That's impossible. They've escaped.
Nothing in this physical universe is foolproof. Stuff breaks down. Materials have flaws or impurities. Brains forget to consider something. Your specs might be perfect, but your devices never will be. This one actually seems to be, but we won't tell them.
I won't make the same mistake next time.
There isn't going to be any next time.
Now it's time we took care of our three-headed invader.
My neutron eraser will stop you.
You sure popped his balloon. A wave of his ring and Green Lantern sends that guy back to Venus. The other Super Friends race around the globe, fixing all the climate issues. Since they caused those issues, it seems appropriate.
Those meddling Super Friends are changing the weather conditions back to normal.
It looks like our Fearian fools must have bungled their job.
It doesn't matter. We can handle it from here on. My androids are now taking control.
That's what you think, Brainiac.
Super Friends.
Your androids are permanently out of order.
But we just saw you on the view screen changing the weather.
We transmitted a videotaped replay of ourselves.
For the last hour, we've been putting an end to your android double.
Question. When they installed the androids, what did they do with the real people, and how did the Super Friends find out? I guess this is it for the Legion of Doom. 2 episodes and out.
I've always got another ingenious plan up my sleeve. You'll never catch the Legion of Doom.
Or not. The Dome, really? For all my mumble grumble, I was enjoying the episode until this. The main reason I lost my suspension of disbelief here is the Dome is still there. But later I found out why. Luthor was so dismayed by my criticisms, he thought better of his actions and put it back. You're welcome. Such a good girl. Oh, what a good girl you are. What a good baby girl. Oh, you got rid of it. And I forgot to put mine on. Alrighty. We'll do it without it. Okay.